Well, after many episodes, we finally get a deeper look into the world of the Luthors, and a long-running plot point finally has gotten me on board. Hey guys, remember Supergirl, Season 2, Episode 12, Luthors, and I was definitely really looking forward to this episode. As you guys know, I've really been enjoying this season. I've really liked everything going on, except for Kara and Mon-El. I just haven't understood why they want to get these two together. I've been I've been kind of, I think, relentless about how I don't want these two together, how I think it's dumb how they've been trying to pursue each other. But I have to say, after this episode, honestly, I kick myself for those reviews, because as I told you guys, that wasn't, that wasn't going to be permanent. My lack of, empathy and lack of care for their relationship and not really buying their relationship, eventually the show would do that. And you know what? This episode, I think the show has finally done it. I'm finally on board with Kara and Mon-El. We'll get into that, but there's a lot more going on in this episode besides that. I just want to tell you guys right now, I think the show's finally got me on board, but let's just get into this episode because I definitely do want to talk about it. Again, I just want to open that because I got a lot of flack for it and things like that, but we start off, and this episode we start off with actually a flashback of young Lex Luthor playing chess with his mother, and this was interesting to see. The fact they actually got an actor to play young Lex Luthor, even though we know we're not going to probably see Lex Luthor on the show for a long time, it was cool to at least get this younger version, but I didn't really buy this guy was Lex Luthor. He looked way too much like the dude who plays Bruce Wayne on Gotham, and I honestly thought it was the same actor, so that all immediately was jarring. And Lena Luthor brings home a young Lena to live with them. Lex introduces himself and asks if Lena wants to play chess, and that essentially is what kind of got her involved into the Luthor family. So in the present day, Kara watched a news report about Lillian Luthor's trial at the unnamed alien bars, and I was happy to see we did go back to this plot point, because I really did love Lillian Luthor as a villain. I thought that she was very vindictive. I thought that she was very malevolent in that sense. Like, she did a very good job with that. Malevolent, that's how you spell it. Malevolent. She did a very good job with that. And I just thought that she was a very powerful villain. I like the idea of her trying to get, Lena to go evil when Lena really was on their side. I thought it was a well done arc, and I don't really know why they cut it short. So I was happy to see it did return in this episode, if briefly, but I was happy to see it came back here. She has a brief, awkward conversation with Mon-El before returning to a table with her friends, and things are very awkward between these two, because as we know, she thinks that Mon-El is going out with Ellie, and she thinks that these two have a relationship and that something's going on between them, and he's still giving her club sodas and they're still trying to be nice to each other, but things are just not really great between them, to say the least. So Wynn and James speculate about Alex's new man, and they realize that Alex arrives with Maggie, and they're both surprised, but John actually knew because he's sidekick, and I love that John said that. And Maggie then challenges Wynn to a game of pool. Kara mentions that she should see Lena to see how she's doing, and I like that despite the fact that they don't trust Lena, Kara still sees the good in her. She's seen that Lena is someone who has been proven to be on their side. She hasn't gone dark like her mother, and she really feels like she can be a genuine friend to her, and I really do love seeing that side of Kara, that she's not so suspicious of her. She actually thinks she can, have a friendship with Lena, and I like seeing that. So sure enough, she goes to visit Lena to see how she's doing. Lena says that Lillian wants to see her, but she really doesn't want to go, mainly because, she knows that Lillian's probably just going to try to get her on board with her next evil scheme, also because she doesn't really condone what Lillian's doing, and Kara says Lena should talk to her mother and tell her how she really feels. After all, her parents are alive, and of course Kara's aren't, so you can understand why Kara feels that way. So Lena visits Lillian in prison, although Lillian's very nasty to Lena at first, obviously because, Lena went behind her back, and she apologized and says she loves her, and Lillian says that all she did was try to protect Lena from Lionel, and who is Lex's father. So Lillian reveals that Lionel was Lena's true father, and that Lena was actually a result of an affair. Lillian says that Lena is a Luthor after all, and asks for a second chance, because as we know, Lena's really tried to find her place this season. She hasn't really known if, what she really is, because she doesn't feel like a Luthor. She doesn't act like any of the other Luthors, so she's been very conflicted as to who she really is, and I thought it was definitely interesting to see. But in another part of the prison, we get the return of James Corbin in this episode, which that was really cool to see. For the first two episodes, we had Corbin be this villain, but he was back in this episode, aka Metallo. He gets a mail's call, and he opens up the envelope and finds kryptonite inside, and the next day, Corbin testifies against Lillian. He goes in a rant against aliens and says that Lillian's the only person trying to save the planet, and when the prosecutor tries to declare Corbin a hostile witness, Corbin stands up, blasts her with a kryptonite ray from his chest, and he goes on a rampage, frees Lena, flees the courtroom, frees Lillian, flees the courtroom, and Kara goes after her as Supergirl, but Corbin drops a crane on some bystanders, and Supergirl saves the bystanders and lets Corbin and Lillian get away. So I did like how this episode was essentially kind of taking two of the most major villains the first half of the season and actually teaming them up. I thought that was kind of cool to see, but I still am kind of, wondering why didn't they just do this in the first place? Like, why didn't they just have these two team up in the rest of the season? That would have been really cool if we had these two as a threat, but they just didn't do that. So back at the DEO, Mag gets a call from the prison saying that Metallo must have gotten the kryptonite the previous night. The only problem is that there was only one other person who visited the prison, that, of course, being Lena. So she visited the prison. They know, obviously, that she got there. So obviously, they're now worried that Lena might have something to do with, Metallo's escape. And so Kara goes to see her, asks if she had anything to do with it, and Lena is a bit put off, but then Maggie arrives with video evidence that Lena had kryptonite in her possession. Because, Lena doesn't understand why Kara would think this of her. Kara's seen the good in her, so far. Why would she feel this way? But she arrives with video evidence that Lena did have kryptonite in her possession, and she actually arrests Lena for aiding and abetting with her mother's escape. So you don't know if Lena actually did have this, or if she did this to protect her mother, but either way, she did have kryptonite in her possession. That evidence obviously is going to be incriminated against her, and she seems like she is the one that is, the one who is culpable of this sort of thing, which we know that Lena obviously isn't bad, but it definitely does set up what is a very interesting plot point for, regarding the Luthors and Kara's relation, which I really like we got into in this episode. So back at Catco, we finally get the return of Snapper, who I feel like we haven't seen for so many episodes, but he's finally back, and James decided to put Lena on the cover of their magazine. Kara protests, saying that it will ruin Lena's reputation. She wants Lena to be at least viewed in a good light, even though that Lena is in jail. She still to see the good in her. She still wants her to be treated, as she should be. And Lena is a bit put. And basically, we see James overrules her, says to run the story. James says that Lena is actually guilty and says he'll prove it to Kara. So I like the way that James is kind of against Kara right now, and he kind of is trying to, he has a different story than her. And afterwards, Kara runs into James' assistant Eve, of course, who she thought went on a date with Mon-El, but she quickly finds out that her date with Mon-El actually went terribly. Why? Because he wouldn't stop talking about Kara. And even though Kara insists that they are just friends, Eve can see the chemistry between these two. And she really, it's not that she didn't like her date. She just feels that Mon-El and Kara should be together. And I like the way that Eve, kind of told her, look, wasn't that great, but, he talked about you and you should go for it. You can tell that Lena really does want these two together, and she feels they should be together, which, yeah, I definitely do agree. I think Kara and Mon-El definitely should be together after this episode. The way that things go, I can totally understand why Kara wants someone like Mon-El. All this time, she's felt very alone. She hasn't really had anyone that's like her, and Mon-El is very much like her. In fact, Mon-El is a little bit lesser like her, is a little bit lesser than her, and she finally feels like she's more than, someone else, because, Mon-El has less knowledge about the planets, and Kara, I think, finally is seeing that she has someone she can confide in, who she can finally bond with in a way, and I think that's something that she really does like about Mon-El that I definitely did see in this episode. I completely understand why Kara actually does like Mon-El, and I'm not trying to, I'm not fucking with you guys. I genuinely think that Kara and Mon-El should be together. I like this idea of them after this episode, and it's not this scene. This was not a scene that got me on board. I'll get to that in a second, but Metallo tries to bust Lena out of prison, but Guardian shows up to stop him. Guardian puts up a good fight, but Metallo takes him out. He doesn't kill Guardian, though, as his kryptonite heart starts to fade and ebb, and instead Metallo frees Lena, and he leaves. So James gets patched up at the DEO, saying that something isn't right with Metallo, and obviously Kara's not upset that he, she's very upset that he was the Guardian, but Alex says that the DEO needs to treat Lena as if she's guilty, because they don't know if she is, but they just need to, treat her as if she is, because right now she's the only likely suspect. So Kara still believes in Lena, but James points out that Clark and Lex were, in fact, best friends, as we know. These two had a very good relationship. And, that's very similar to that of Kara and Lena. And we know that Lex obviously betrayed Clark, so Lena could very well betray Kara. And he also says it's frustrating that Kara trusts Lena, but not him. He doesn't really understand that. And I can understand why James feels this way, but at the same time, I mean, Kara told her specifically, don't be the Guardian. You're going against her. I get that he wants to protect her, but it makes sense why she doesn't really trust him right now. I know he hasn't really stayed true to his word. He hasn't done what she's wanted to do, so it completely makes sense to me why she really would not trust him. I can understand why James is upset, but at the same time, I can understand why Kara doesn't really trust him at all, so I do like the direction that went. So Kara then takes out her frustration on some concrete blocks, and Mon-El shows up, and unlike James, Mon-El points out that Kara believes in a lot of people that no one else would, and himself included. And Kara then apologizes to Mon-El for being distant, and says she was mad that Mon-El was dating Eve, and Mon-El asks why Kara would be mad, but Kara gets flustered and leaves. Remember, Mon-El doesn't really pick up on certain social cues in the world, so again, when Mon-El acts naive and dumb, it makes sense, because he's not dumb, he's just very unaware of the ways of Earth, and we still see that in this episode. There's still things that he doesn't really understand. Like, he doesn't understand how lesbians work. Apparently, on Daxam, you just have as many as you want. Like, you can just be a player and just date as many people as you want. If that was true, that'd be awesome, because, you wouldn't have to stay committed. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing to stay committed in a relationship. I'm just saying it'd probably be a lot easier to stay committed to, not stay committed to one person, but a bunch of people. But yeah, things like that really do show that Mon-El is not as, he's not as up to date, or as he says, he's not as hip to the ways of the world, and that right there shows he's not. So Lena tells her mother that no one will believe she's innocent now that she's been busted out of prison. Lillian says that the public will never believe she's innocent anyways, and then asks Lena to join Cadmus. And obviously this is something that we know Lena has not wanted to do, but Lillian wants to get her on board. And meanwhile, Metallo's veins start to glow green, but no one seems to notice. So she takes Lena to one of Lex's old facilities, which contains some of Lex's old arsenal, and the arsenal is biometrically locked, and Lily needs Lena's DNA to open it. And Lena refuses, but Cyborg Superman forced her to put her hand on it. The arsenal opens up and reveals one of Lex's war suits. So obviously this is not a good situation now. But back at the DEO, Wynn discovers that Hank Henshaw actually hacked into LexCorp and modified the video to frame Lena, and Wynn also traces Metallo's kryptonite signature into the mountains, and Wynn points out that Metallo's kryptonite is unstable, and that he could blow up at any moment. So this obviously is not a good situation, and Kara then flies out to rescue Lena. Alex wonders that when Metallo blows up, it will release a giant poison cloud of kryptonite, and we know obviously what that does to Kara. Just like Superman, she has an allergic reaction to that. I mean, she can't breathe when she's exposed to kryptonite, so this is a very dangerous situation for her. This actually probably would have been a good time to use the Guardian, but obviously Kara's not going to use the Guardian because, again, he's just human. He can be hurt just like, other humans can. She can't be, she's she is she's an alien, she can't be exposed to that kind of thing. I would have said put Martian Manhunter on the scene, but he's really not in the right state of mind right now. He's still kind of getting over what happened with McGrath and things like that. But obviously, this isn't a good situation for Kara, and you really do get the sense that this might not work out for Kara, and that she might actually just have to let Lena and Lillian do what they need to do, because this actually might not be her thing. She might not actually be able to get out of this situation. I do like the way they built that up here. So, Supergirl shows up at the Luthor facility, but she's quickly overpowered by some of Lex's sonic weapons, and as Supergirl fights back, Wynn warns Supergirl that the more Metallo uses his powers, the quicker he's going to explode, which obviously, again, is not a good situation. So Cyborg, Superman, Lillian flee, but not before Cyborg Superman knocks out Lena. Metallo begins to go critical. Martian Manhunter shows up to help Supergirl fight and put Metallo away, which I did love the way that John did save the day there. But it just felt kind of cut short, mainly because this episode didn't focus on John that much. John was in a couple scenes, but it just kind of felt weird that he just randomly came in to save the day. There wasn't really any build up to it. There wasn't any John, offering to help Supergirl. He just happened to save her. It just felt kind of convenient the way that was done. I'm not saying it was bad. I'm just saying it was kind of convenient, and I do think it would have been a little bit more powerful if she had to do this on her own, and that she maybe had to get the Guardian or something like that. I just felt that the Martian Manhunter, just a bit convenient there. But Supergirl and Martian Manhunter grab Lena. They fly away just as Metallo explodes, and that was a pretty powerful scene to see Metallo actually explode and die. I mean, I was shocked to see that, but I was also a bit disappointed because I genuinely wanted to see Corbin be the villain. I think that the guy who plays him is very powerful. I think that he could be quite a good villain. I think him and Lena working together was something I kind of wanted to see, but no, he's actually dead, and yeah, that was interesting to see. And I was surprised they actually did kill off like a villain. They don't do that a lot in the show. They did it obviously with what the hell was her name last year? Astrid or something like I can't fucking remember her name. The girl that was in pursuit of her. She looked like her mother, but she wasn't her mother. I can't remember her name right now, but you know, Laura Bell Bundy played her, that character. I was surprised to see Metallo actually die, because it's very rare they actually kill off villains. But the next morning, Kara triumphantly walks into Kako. She gloats to Snapper about being right, and Jimmy asks about Lillian, but Kara says that she and Cyborg Superman got away. James apologizes too and says that they should just go back to being friends. And I like the way she kind of is willing to put this aside after everything they've been through. I definitely did like seeing that. I thought that was definitely very well done. And I like the way that she was able to, finally come to terms and tell him, look, okay, I understand you're guardian. I'm not going to be okay with it, but I'm willing to move on. And I like seeing that, because if she dwelled on it for another, 4 episodes, it would have gotten really annoying. And I'm glad they didn't do that. So Kara visits Lena. Lena says that no one has ever stood up for her before. And when Kara leaves, Lena picks up a chess piece, and she has a flashback to her beating Lex at chess. So I don't know where this is going to go. I'm sure we're going to see Lena again, but this definitely confirms that Lena is going to be on their side, and that whatever she does, she is going to do what she can to take down Lillian. So we're probably going to see Lillian again. I don't think this is the end of her. I think we're definitely going to see her before the season ends, but what to what end, I don't really know, but I definitely think that Lena is going to play a big part later in the latter half of the season, but we'll have to see. Then we get to the ending. Now, here's where we get to the part where, like I said, at this point, I was starting to get on board with Monel and Kara. This confirmed it. This confirmed that, okay, I am finally on board with this story, because Monel shows up at Kara's apartment, and Kara gives him this really big speech, and it basically shows why she needs Monel. She admits that she doesn't like being vulnerable, which is why she pushed Monel away. She couldn't think of the fact that she couldn't be with Monel. She wanted to make him think that she didn't like him, so that way he could be free to date, and she wouldn't feel like she was the one in the vulnerable position. She says that she thought she had to pick between being Supergirl and having a relationship. She felt that she committed herself to too much last year, which, yeah, she did, and that's why, because she was just starting to learn how to be Supergirl. She was juggling way too much at the time. She had way too much going on. She was trying to be with Kat's son, Adam. She briefly dated him. She tried to be with Wynn. That didn't work. She tried to be with James. But now she's finally realizing that she can have both, and that there is a way for her to have that balance. And when Monel came along, he kept proving her wrong. She kept trying to push him away, just saying that no, she can't have a boyfriend. But that got her thinking that maybe she could have it all. And they're about to kiss, and it's honestly a really satisfying scene. I thought the chemistry between these two was really strong here. I really did love this scene overall, and I was actually ready for them to hook up. I was like, all right, I'm actually on board with this. Why don't they just kiss now? But right when that happens, we see Mr. Pluck, or however you pronounce his name. He suddenly pops up at his apartment. He declares his love for Kara, which was very weird, but it perfectly sets up next episode, and that is the way this episode ends. But let's just get into this episode and where I think we're going to go for the rest of the season. So overall, guys, I really did enjoy this episode, I have to say. Not just because of everything going on with the Luthors. I thought that was very well done. But as you guys know, it finally got me on board with Kara and Monel. Now I can see, after so many episodes of me rejecting this storyline, I can see why you guys want them together. I completely understand it. Like Kara said, she didn't feel like she needed anyone in her life. She kept pushing people away because she just felt that she wasn't capable of being both. She didn't think she could be a superhero and handle a relationship. And honestly, that was my fear too. That was the reason why I didn't want these two together, because as we know, Kara showed she didn't need a man. But through Monel, she's realizing that, yeah, she does need someone to confide in. She doesn't want to be alone. She doesn't want to be someone without a boyfriend. She doesn't want Monel just because she wants to be in a relationship with him. That's not all that. She wants someone that she can confide in, and someone she can talk to, and someone who can actually make her feel whole. And, because everyone else makes her feel lesser, this actually makes her feel whole and good about herself. And that's everything that Monel does. When she's with Monel, she always feels like she's on top of the world, and that's why these two need to date. And Monel needs Kara because she's more acclimated to the ways of the world, and she knows more about Earth and she can train him and things like that. So they really actually do need each other. And now I understand why you guys want them together. The chemistry between those two was so strong this episode, and I'm on board with this now. I really do like where we're headed with this direction. Now, who the hell is this guy that's popped up? I have no idea. For some reason, next week they're doing the Valentine's Day episode. I don't know if they skipped a week or something like that, but they're clearly behind 1 week because this episode was probably supposed to air last week and it aired this week instead. Kind of weird that it did, but again, I don't control the schedule. That's just kind of how it is. I did really like where we went with Lena and Lillian here. I like that we realized that Lena, is on the good side, which we already knew. It was kind of redundant in showing that Lena is good. We already knew that Lena was good. But I like the way that once again, she did, try to stand down. She did, basically turn down her mother. She told her, I don't want anything to do with this. I don't want to be evil. I want to be good. And I like the direction that Lena's headed, where she really is starting to become very much her own person. She's not giving into her mom. She's not just doing what her mom wants her to do. And I really do like seeing that. I like the way she is really starting to become her own person. And I really am looking forward to seeing where that ends up going with Lena. If she ends up becoming good, if she ends up working with Kara, I really think this could go in a good direction. But it also makes me wonder if we are going to see Lex Luthor at some point, because we did see that flashback. And like I said, I don't buy this kid as Lex Luthor, but we don't know who's playing Lex Luthor if we do eventually see him. Now, I don't know if that's ever going to happen. But at some point it has to. I mean, we've seen Superman. We're bound to see Lex Luthor at some point. That's going to happen at some point in the show. I don't know when, but it's definitely going to happen. I can't wait to see the way that happens. Honestly, it probably should be the next crossover. That's what I say. I say the next, big crossover. Get Superman back, have Lex Luthor be the villain. Imagine how epic that would be. That's when they need to bring Lex Luthor in, because that would be amazing if they did that, and I really hope that they do that, because it'd be really cool to see Lex Luthor on the show. I'm not saying every week. I think it should be like a Superman thing where he's only on every now and again, just to prove that he's still out there. But I would definitely like to see Lex Luthor again. But I also really did love in this episode, I have to say, how Kara finally decided to accept James. She realized that, yeah, she can't, she's not happy that he's a Guardian, but she can't really change that. He is what he is. If he wants to get himself hurt, then get himself hurt. At the end of the day, they are friends, and she needs to accept that. And I like that she realized that she can't just control him. She can't just tell him what to do. Obviously, he's not going to listen to her. She's done all she can to try to get him to listen to her, and it's just not happening. He's not listening to her. She's done everything she can. She's made every effort possible. The best thing to do is to just let him do what he wants to do. So I like that she did, in fact, make up with him. I thought that was very well done. My one complaint in this episode, though, is that, one, John, like I said, saving Supergirl, just didn't really fit in this episode because he really didn't have much to do. He was kind of just brooding over McGrath leaving briefly, but after that, he really didn't have much else to do in this episode, and I hope that doesn't mean that he doesn't really have an arc for the rest of the season, because I loved his arc with McGrath. Don't get me wrong, I did, but now I'm worried that he's going to be pushed to the side, and John is one of the best characters on this show. I think his twist is still one of the best things. David Harewood is one of the best actors this show has, and I really hope they continue to give him great stuff, because he is such a great actor, and I really hope they continue to play to his strengths, because that's something they've done very well this season, and I really hope that doesn't change, because I like the direction they're going with John. I just don't know if they're actually going to give him a storyline for the rest of the season. We'll have to see. And then, like I said, Corbin and Lillian teaming up, that is a perfect duo of, that the perfect villain duo. I don't know why the show won't just stick to a villain. It seems like the show doesn't, know how to have an actual, recurring villain. It's really weird the show doesn't know how to do that. You would think 2 seasons in they would know how to do that, but that's just the one thing that really is pissing me off. They don't have a steady villain. Yes, I know they just casted some dude as the villain for the rest of the season, but do we really care at this point? I mean, that far in the season, I'm happy to see they are getting a villain, but I really did want to see Lillian as the villain this season. I think that she's powerful enough. I think that she is vindictive enough. I think that she could just last an entire season, and I don't know why they're not doing that. All the other Marvel shows are doing that. I mean, even Legends of Tomorrow has a steady villain. We have Thawne, we have Damien Dark, and we have Malcolm Merlyn. Those are villains for the season, the Legion of Doom. Just like Arrow has Prometheus. Flash has Savitar. Supergirl doesn't have anyone right now. Supergirl just has a bunch of hodgepodge of different villains, and it kind of is starting to annoy me a bit. But other than that, guys, I really did enjoy this episode. I do wish that the plot line was a little bit more relevant, had a little bit more relevance, and wasn't just, randomly reminding us, oh yeah, the Luthors are still there. It did a good job of getting us further into the Luthors world. I thought they did a good job with that. And of course, it definitely is the episode that got me finally on board with Kara and Mon-El's relationship after so much of me, trying to, not buying into their chemistry. I finally do see it in this episode, and I'm over going to give Supergirl Season 2, Episode 12, Luthors, a 4 out of 5 or a B+. So over, guys, marry this episode of Supergirl. Let me know what you guys thought of this episode overall. Loved your thoughts. And do you guys agree that the show needs a steady villain? It feels very weird that they don't have a villain at this point. Do you want Kara and Mon-El together? At this point, I do. I'm actually on board with them now. But that's my review. Hope you guys enjoy it. We'll see you guys in my next video, which will be for tonight's episode of Shadowhunters. And I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.